Good day, everybody, and welcome to another episode in our series of Unpacking Telematics. This educational series is brought to you by Netstar, a subsidiary of the Alton Group, in partnership with FleetWatch magazine. My name is Patrick O'Leary. I'm managing editor of FleetWatch, and in this episode, we'll be talking about the best telematics solution for small fleets. And to talk us through this, I have with me in the studio Mr. Franscois Stols, who's Principal Technology Consultant at Netstar, who has been with Netstar for many, many years and in the technical arena for many years.
Good day to you as well, Patrick.
Welcome, yes. And Franscois, tell me, going back to the old days of the initial advent of it was fleet management, and it wasn't fleet management, it was fleet tracking and recovery, I think we used to call it. And then came fleet management under the label Telematics. Now, those systems were very expensive in those days. I remember some of them going into like 18,000 rand a truck. That was the prices have come down tremendously, and the features have improved tremendously. But one of the things that always seemed to be missing was targeting the smaller fleets. Was that because of the price, or were you developing systems for the bigger fleets with the intention to later bring it down to the smaller fleets?
No, Patrick, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think in those early days. So I think if you go right back 30 years ago, what we then turned to telematics was actually just vehicle recovery devices. There was no intelligence. But when GSM and GPS came about, GSM data and so on, the technology was very expensive. And also the need was probably more driven by large fleets. So it's always easier to scale up than to scale down. So once you've developed a system for large fleets and you've got big hardware designed for those big applications, they don't scale down nicely. So I think from our perspective, I think now that we've developed platforms specifically for small fleets, we're in a far better position. And then, of course, with the commoditization of technology and so on, the prices have plummeted. It is now very affordable for a small fleet to operate a proper fleet telematics-based fleet management system.
So the features have been targeted at small fleets, and also the prices are more attractive to small fleets. That's an attractive proposition for a small fleet to get into high technology.
Correct, Patrick. And also the features and functions. You don't want to, a small shop owner or a small construction company, you don't want to belabor them with 128 reports that they will never use or whatever. So you design the product for the needs of that small operator.
Okay, which takes us, what do you define as a small to medium-sized fleet rather than a large fleet? Have you got a definition for that? Is it based on the number of vehicles in the fleet, et cetera, et cetera? What's your definition for it?
Yeah, so Patrick, that's interesting because there's no sort of industry standard for that, but within our company, we sort of regard anything up to about 15 vehicles as a small fleet. In fact, sort of less than 5 vehicles we sort of regard as a micro fleet, because again, they got different needs, they got DIY needs. They don't want anybody to lean over their shoulder and show them how the system works. They're quite happy just to do everything themselves. They just want to keep tab of their drivers. Whereas your sort of fleets bigger than 5 fleets, 5 to 15, they're starting to have more sort of advanced needs. And then from 50 to 50, we sort of categorize them as what we call medium size. So we cater for the small to medium size enterprises. Yeah. So small is up to 15, and medium is up to 50.
You mentioned the micro fleet, up to 5.
Yes.
Does that mean it's an off-the-shelf package purchase? Because he doesn't want to go over his shoulder, but he wants the features.
Correct, Patrick. So it's very exciting. What we did is, I think in line with modern trends, everybody these days talk about digitization and so on. So we realize, when you do business with your bank these days, you don't go into a branch anymore. You do everything online. So a small business owner is in the same position. He doesn't want complex contracts or whatever. He wants to be able to go online, purchase his fleet management system, self-schedule his fitments, and then just get himself going. So the system has to be very intuitive, and it has to have all the underlying capability that he can manage his own fleet without any intervention from call centers or salespeople or support people.
Okay, so you've basically over the years started big, and now you've gone into micro and small to medium-sized fleet. Do those small to medium-sized fleets have different needs to the big ones? Have you identified different needs that you were able to cater for in a specific packages?
Yes, So I think maybe it's just starting with large fleets. I think with very large fleets, the emphasis is really around the efficiency of the fleet. If you have a fleet of 1,000 trucks or whatever, you want to know that those trucks are on the road and they're working in the most optimum manner. So it is fleet utilization, it's route optimization. So everything is around the efficiency and fleet, and of course the cents per kilometer of that operation. So you want to keep your operational cost down to a bare minimum. But if you're a small business owner, then your business might be very cyclical. If you're a construction company, you want to make sure that the construction staff gets to the site on the right time, at the right time. But then the vehicle could stand there the whole day. So fleet efficiency and so on is less important. But what is more important is on-time deliveries, on time on site, and those kind of things. So it's a different value proposition. And then of course even for the small fleets, cost is also a big factor. The cost of operating, even the small fleets, so fuel costs, maintenance costs, insurance costs, all of those things. If you can help them save that, it's also very, very important.
You mentioned the fuel costs. They're very, very important to a small fleet or a large fleet. And I think this is, the management of that has been ignored or neglected by the smaller fleets. And fuel, as you know, is very expensive nowadays. And also we're trying to save the planet. So the less fuel that can be used, the better. So in a small fleet, how can you help them?
Yeah. So Patrick, I think
just on the fuel side.
Yeah. So Patrick, on the fuel side, So again, starting with the large fleets, they will throw big money at it. So they will put fuel flow meters in the trucks where you can't read the fuel from the bus systems and so on, and they will put all kinds of anti-tamper devices on the fuel caps to make sure fuel theft can't take place, and do a lot of fuel profiling, and even devices that will limit speed and so on. Where the small fleets, they can't afford that level of technology. So there you more focused around driver behavior. I think it's sort of, if you drive smoothly, if you don't accelerate harshly, if you don't decelerate harshly, if you keep within the speed limits, or you drive smoothly, then the fuel savings is significant. So what we've built into the platform is the ability to, at all times in real time, assess the driver behavior to make sure that he drives smoothly, and that then results in fuel savings.
Of course, a big fleet, Franscois, would necessitate a real face-to-face interactions to discover the needs of that fleet, because there's many different needs. Some in the bells and whistles of telematics systems will be needed, others won't be. Do you give the same time and attention to the smaller fleet, because they're coming into a totally new arena? They've never used such packages before, and you're saying, I want to improve your business for you, improve your bottom line. Have you got the manpower to do that?
Yeah, so Patrick, I think there's sort of micro fleets. There's literally tens of thousands of them. So you can't give the sort of personal touch attention to them all of the time. But what you must also realize is these guys become medium fleets, and the medium fleets become large fleets. So you've got to design your business process to make sure that you recognize as customers' needs grow. So typically what we do is we assign a key account manager to any fleet over the size of 15. And that key account manager will be in regular contact with the customer just to make sure that their needs are being serviced. Because even those smaller customers, some of them are starting to throw money at the problem. They will fit intelligence, AI-driven cameras and so on. And those are not things that you can sell online, or you need to consult on those as well. So what we have found in the past, your medium-sized fleet of today is the large fleet of tomorrow, and you must be there to grow with them and make sure that you understand their needs as their business grows. Yeah.
So you're talking about a lifetime, like in a purchase decision of a truck, total cost of ownership. Correct. You're talking about lifetime relationship. So no one's too small for you.
No, 100%, Patrick. And we've even designed our software platforms, as your fleet grows. So obviously you can't have the same software application for a small fleet that you have for the large fleets, for the reasons that I've explained earlier. But what we have done is we've built this big data model, and all the data gets ingested into the same common big data store. So as your fleet grow, you can migrate to the next level software platform without losing your historical data, because all the software platforms get their data from the same source. So as your business grow, you still have access to all of your historical data back to 5 years or even longer.
Yeah, big data. That's the buzzword today. That's where everyone's going. Big data. It's been utilized. So as a small operator, I will be brought into the big data arena of a bigger fleet through your AI capabilities to give me some kind of indication, for example, of a dangerous route or something like that. I might not travel that route, but I'll know, don't travel that route. You're getting that, so I'm getting the benefit of all that through your A1 and your big data that you're collecting. Is that correct?
Correct, Patrick. I think, with data privacy issues and POPI Act and so on, one has to be careful, but you can take all of the data and you can anonymize it and randomize it and then use it as a general trend. So, looking at all of our vehicles and also our stolen vehicle recovery division, we can see where the hijacking hotspots are, and they move around, the thieves move around. Yeah. So we can dynamically advise you, this is now a hijack hotspot, avoid it, based on our big data model without disclosing any personal information of anybody else. But just looking at the data holistically. But for your own data, you can do whatever you want with your own data. And, we're now moving to sort of data as a service, to insights as a service. So, we're focusing very much, what is your data telling you? Even if you're a small fleet, what is your data telling you? And what insights can you get from that data? Yeah.
Because we, as it grew, I remember people saying there's information overload, too much. Can you scale it down to what I need in that data? What information do I need to improve my fleet operations, better my bottom line, and give a better service to my customers and be more profitable overall and just more professional?
No, 100%, Patrick. I think the historically fleet management companies used to overload you not only with data but with report, and everybody was sort of trying to outdo each other. We've got 200 standard reports, and so these days it's not about the number of reports that you have. It's actually the ability to have access to a dashboard where only the critical information that you need to run your fleet is visible to you in real time. But of course the underlying data is there. So if you want to drill down, if you see some kind of anomaly and you want to drill down, the capability then is to drill down and get to the root of the problem and do an analysis of the root of the problem. I think the other thing that we also do that is becoming very popular is what we call bureau services. So, your business is not to manage a fleet. Your business is to run your construction company. But you want somebody to have eyes on your driver, and you want somebody to sort of curate those reports at the end of the month to turn the report into something that's useful for you as a business. So you would sit down with our bureau manager and you would say, these are the important parameters that I wanted reported on, and our guys will then extract, our bureau would extract the data and they will put it into a curated report that makes sense to you.
You leapt ahead of my question that I was going to ask, and you've dealt perfectly with it. Because I was going to say, is that you do run a bureau service, so that takes a headache off me of trying to. I'm a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, plumber, whatever it is, and I've got to focus on that core business. Smaller business admin sometimes isn't the best. I haven't got time to do all this. Can I tap into your bureau and your guys will do it for me and give me dashboards according to my needs and help me?
Yeah, so we have a whole range of packages that we offer in the bureau. So the most basic package you as a business owner will get in any event as part of your package, and that is really just the proactive monitoring of the fleet health. So we in the old days we used to say, phone us when your unit is not working, so those days are over. So we're now monitoring your fleet, and if we see something, a vehicle that should be reporting that's not reporting, we'll make contact with you and say, this vehicle is not reporting. Is it maybe in for a service? Is the battery disconnected because it's being worked on? We'll check up on the health of the vehicle, and that comes standard with all the packages. And then from there you can scale up, right up to, for Patco bus services, we monitor their camera clips. They've got over 6,000 cameras, and we've got people that's hearing impaired that's sitting staring at screens, just looking at video clips and trying to see anomalies and write reports on that. So there's a whole range of services that we can offer, and it really just depends what your business needs are.
That's fantastic. So I'm running my business. I'm the butcher. I'm getting the meat to the customers. I'm putting it in my butchery. I'm supplying wholesale. I'm supplying other retail markets, etc. I'm okay. I've got a couple of refrigerated vehicles. But I don't have to worry about losing sight of that by putting my eyes on an administrative process.
Correct.
You are going to do that for me. You are therefore my partner in business.
Yeah, and Patrick, what's quite interesting these days with I think hijackings and so on, and fleet security is becoming a big issue. I think after the July unrests and so on, it's becoming even more of an issue. So we're seeing more and more demands for our bureau services to do what we call route monitoring. So we will keep eyes on screen. and if the vehicle is dispatched to do a particular route, and we'll make sure that he stops at the scheduled stops and none of the unscheduled stops. And if we see the vehicle doing something out of the ordinary that is not within the planned trip parameters, we'll phone the driver, make sure he's okay, and if need be, we'll intervene. So this sort of eyes on screen security side of it is also becoming a big thing, and that will eventually filter down to the smaller operators as well.
And of course, that's where the whole telematics, as it's called today, that's where it started, isn't it? And South Africa was a pioneer in that thing of fleet tracking and recovery to get your fleet back from the hijackers.
Yeah, Patrick, it's actually quite sad, but that South Africa became pioneers at it because of our high vehicle crime rate.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think it's still a position where South Africa has got a leading role to play there. And especially around the sort of crime prevention side of it. I think general telematics is now sort of quite mature in the rest of the world. But I think we've got some unique challenges here that we need to manage. And in that field, we are certainly still market leaders.
To sum up, Franscois, I think because of the large fleets, the beginning era was the large fleets. I think the smaller fleets ignored the fleet management, telematics, recovery arena. And I think also there was a perception, perhaps, that it's only about when your vehicle gets stolen or recovered, because you made great inroads into the car market. And everyone also has a car who runs a small business. So they probably got it fitted to the car in case it gets hijacked and that, but never thought of it as a fleet management tool that can assist their business. Those days are over.
Correct, yeah. No, 100%, Patrick. So if you look at the sort of penetration of telematics into private vehicles, it's sitting at about 37%, which is quite high, but it's all driven really by security needs, stolen vehicle recovery needs and so on.
Yes.
If you look at large enterprises, big trucks and so on, they understand the value of telematics. Their penetration is already sitting at 63%, which shows it's a mature market. If you look at the small to medium-sized enterprises, the penetration is only at 23, 24%.
Wow.
But the year-on-year growth is the biggest in that segment. So we see those guys are getting onto the bandwagon very, very quickly. They're starting to understand the need. So it is the fastest growing segment and the most underserviced segment at the moment, which is both an opportunity, but it's also a bit of a shame that we've left that gap for so long, but it's just the way that things work out. I think we started off this conversation with affordability, and I think and that's probably the driving force behind it. Yeah.
But in affordability, we talk about total cost of ownership when you purchase in a vehicle. You must look at affordability of these systems in terms of making you money, not costing you money. Correct. Because that's what telematics does, isn't it?
100%, yeah. So there's a lot of focus these days on the sort of payback element of it. I think businesses don't want to regard it as a cost element anymore. They actually want to see it as an efficiency management tool. So that will help them to bring their costs down and make the fleet and their operations more efficient. So that is the message that we as telematics companies must get across to the industry as well.
Well, there you have it. All you small business owners out there, this is not an advertisement. This is actually a push. You can do better on your business, and you have help. It's all there. You've got a bureau service. You've got features that were designed and developed for big companies, moving down into fleet management arenas in the small companies, making you more efficient, making you safer on the road. You can also benefit from the big data that is flowing through the Internet of Things and all this. We won't go into that. And so for fleet, and it's the biggest growth area, which means that small businesses are taking note and are moving towards telematics systems such as provided by Netstar to improve their businesses. So anyone who wants to go have a look, get in touch with Netstar.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Frans. I really appreciate that. For all of you out there, there's a number of different series in this episodes in this series of Unpacking Telematics.